The sun rose gently over the rolling fields of Leora Prime, painting the sky in soft shades of gold and pink. Dew sparkled on the tall grasses, and the wind carried the sweet scent of ripening crops. In the midst of this peaceful world, Kale worked tirelessly. His hands, strong and calloused, moved with quiet precision as he tended the rows of vegetables and grains. Every furrow he plowed, every seed he planted, was a testament to years of practice and patience. To the people of his small village, Kale was a simple farmer. But Kale carried in him a quiet strength that few could see. He paused for a moment, wiping sweat from his brow, and looked out over the fields. Beyond the fences of his farm, distant mountains rose like silent guardians, their peaks lost in morning mist. Birds chirped and flitted from tree to tree, while small creatures scurried along the edges of the farm. Kale took a deep breath, savoring the calm before the day truly began. Farming was hard work, but it brought peace. At least it usually did. Kale's routine was suddenly interrupted by the sound of engines in the sky. At first he thought it was some kind of local transport, but the sound was different. Larger, heavier, and more precise. He turned to see sleek silver ships descending slowly toward the outskirts of the village. Their hulls gleamed in the sunlight, and strange symbols marked their sides. Kale's brow furrowed. Visitors from another planet were not common here. He had heard stories from traveling merchants about alien delegations visiting distant worlds, but he had never imagined one would come to his quiet farm. The ships landed gently on the grass, kicking up small clouds of dust. From one of them, a group of beings emerged. They were tall, elegant, and unlike any humans Kale had ever seen. Their skin shimmered faintly, their eyes large and expressive. At the center of the group was a figure who radiated authority and grace, a young woman wearing a flowing robe adorned with intricate designs. Her presence commanded attention, even without words. Kale immediately sensed that she was someone important. "Stay calm," he muttered to himself. He had always believed that respect and caution were the best ways to deal with strangers, especially strangers from distant stars. Kale walked toward the group, wiping his hands on his apron. As he approached, the woman's eyes met his, sharp and curious. "I am Princess Seraphine of Nethera," she said in a melodic voice that carried across the quiet field. "We have come to observe life on your world. Tell me, farmer, do you find these lands suitable for what your kind calls simple living?" Kale blinked, slightly taken aback. He had expected curiosity, perhaps questions about the village or the crops, but not this. Still, he bowed his head respectfully. "These lands are good for farming, Princess," he said simply. "They give us what we need. They provide for our families and our people. That is enough." Seraphine tilted her head, studying him. "You speak humbly, but there is something in your bearing, something that makes me doubt you are as ordinary as you appear." Kyle chuckled softly, shaking his head. "I am nothing more than a farmer. My strength is in the soil and the seasons, not in skill or battle." The princess smiled faintly, though her eyes remained watchful. Kale felt a small shiver of unease. There was something different about her gaze, as if she could see deeper than the surface. Still, he kept his composure, for he had learned long ago that calmness and patience were valuable tools, sometimes more important than strength. Seraphine gestured toward the farm. "I would like to see your life, Kale. Show me the work you do, the land you care for, and the life you live. Perhaps I will understand why humans are considered unique." Kale nodded, though a part of him felt cautious. He led her across the field, showing the neatly planted crops, the small orchard in the back, and the irrigation channels he had dug himself. As they walked, he explained how each crop was grown, the methods he used to ensure they thrived, and the ways he preserved the soil's health. Seraphine listened carefully, occasionally asking questions that revealed her curiosity about human methods. "You care for your land with attention," she observed. "There is a rhythm to your work, a discipline that I do not often see among my own people." Kale smiled faintly. "We have to. The land is our life. If we do not care for it, we have nothing. We are small, yes, but we survive through persistence and care." The sun climbed higher in the sky as they continued their walk. Birds circled above, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves. Kale began to relax slightly in her presence, noticing that Princess Seraphine was not just observing. She was learning. Yet a subtle tension remained in the air. Kale had heard whispers of unrest in the nearby systems, rumors of uprisings and conflicts between humans and alien powers. He could not ignore the possibility that her visit had a purpose beyond curiosity. As they reached the edge of the farm, A sudden noise broke the calm. A low hum grew louder, followed by the sound of boots crunching on grass. Kale's instincts sharpened instantly. From the forest at the far side of his land, figures emerged. They were clad in dark armor, their weapons gleaming in the sunlight. Kale recognized the symbols on their armor, raiders from a neighboring system known for attacking settlements to take supplies. His heart tightened. "Princess, move back," he said calmly, placing himself between her and the approaching threat. The raiders stopped at the edge of the field, scanning the area. They had not expected resistance and did not know the strength of the humans they were confronting. Seraphine's eyes widened slightly. "Do not underestimate them," she whispered almost to herself. Kale nodded but kept his expression neutral. The raiders lunged forward, their weapons raised. Kyle reacted without thought, using a nearby farming tool, a long, sturdy hoe, to block the first strike. The metal met the raider's weapon with a loud clang. He twisted and turned, using his knowledge of balance and leverage to disarm another attacker. His movements were precise, efficient, and unexpectedly deadly. Seraphine watched, astonished. The man she had believed to be a simple farmer moved with the skill of a trained warrior. Yet there was no anger in his actions, only calculated defense, protecting both himself and the innocent. The raiders faltered, unable to anticipate his quick thinking. Kale used the opportunity to push them back, guiding them away from the princess. A clever maneuver sent one of them tumbling into the irrigation channel, and another was disarmed when Kale pivoted and struck with the flat side of his tool. Within moments, the raiders realized that the attack had failed. With a muttered curse, they retreated toward the forest, disappearing as quickly as they had arrived. Seraphine approached Kyle slowly, her expression a mixture of awe and disbelief. You are not a simple farmer," she said quietly. "There is power in you, skill I did not expect." Kyle set the tool down and wiped his hands on his apron. "I told you, princess," he said with a small smile. "I am only a farmer. But sometimes a farmer must protect what he cares for. That is all." Seraphine studied him for a long moment. Something in her demeanor changed. The curiosity in her eyes deepened into respect. For the first time, she saw humans not as fragile or ordinary beings, but as creatures capable of remarkable skill, resilience, and courage. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the fields, Kyle returned to his work. He did not boast, nor did he speak of his past. He simply continued tending the land he loved. Seraphine walked beside him, silent but thoughtful. She had come expecting to observe a simple life, but she had witnessed a man whose calm exterior hid incredible capability. That evening, as the first stars appeared in the sky, Kale sat outside his farmhouse mending a tool by lantern light. The air was cool, filled with the scent of earth and growing crops. Princess Seraphine watched him from the porch, still absorbing what she had seen. The quiet farm, she realized, was more than it appeared. It was home to a man whose courage and intelligence could change the course of events far beyond this small world. And Kale, unaware of the impression he had made, continued his simple life, proving that sometimes true strength lies not in appearances, but in the heart and mind of a human willing to rise to any challenge. The morning air was crisp and clean, carrying the scent of wet soil and growing crops across Kale's farm. Princess Seraphine had chosen to stay the night, fascinated by the simple human life and, more importantly, the man who seemed so ordinary, yet had defended them with unmatched skill. Kale, meanwhile, rose early as he always did, and moved through his farm with quiet purpose. Every action was measured, every movement careful, a reflection of years spent living off the land. Seraphine followed him silently, observing the way he handled each task. Kale repaired a fence post with a single strong motion, lifted a heavy sack of grain with ease, and guided a small ox through a stubborn patch of soil. To an untrained eye, it seemed like simple farm work, but Seraphine could sense the precision and strength in every movement. "Your hands, they are strong yet careful," she remarked, breaking the silence. "Is this how humans work every day?" Kale glanced at her, his dark eyes calm and steady. "We have to care for what we rely on," he said. "Strength without care is wasted. Patience and awareness are as important as power." The princess nodded thoughtfully. She had traveled across countless systems and seen countless warriors and soldiers. But there was something different about this human, something that made her feel both curiosity and caution. Their quiet morning was suddenly disrupted by a sharp metallic sound echoing from the edge of the forest. Kale froze, his body tense. Seraphine noticed the change immediately. "What is it?" she asked. Kale's hand went instinctively to his side where a simple knife rested in a sheath. He scanned the tree line carefully. "Visitors. Unwanted ones," he said quietly. "Be ready." Before she could respond, a group of strange figures emerged from the shadows of the forest. Unlike the raiders from the day before, these beings were taller and bulkier with dark armor and glowing weapons. Their approach was silent but purposeful, and the glint of their eyes showed intelligence and intent. Kyle recognized the symbols on their armor immediately. They were from a faction known for raiding settlements for technology and resources. "Stay behind me," Kyle said, his voice calm but firm. He moved to put himself between the intruders and the princess. Seraphine's eyes widened. She had seen him fight yesterday, but she had not expected such danger to appear so soon or so boldly. The raiders struck quickly, their weapons aiming to overwhelm him with speed and numbers. Kale's instincts took over. He used a nearby farming hoe, lifting it with perfect balance to deflect the first attack. Sparks flew where metal met metal, but Kale did not falter. His movements were fluid, precise, and powerful. Each step was deliberate, each swing calculated to maximize efficiency and minimize effort. Seraphine gasped, realizing that Kale's fighting style was more than instinct. It was intelligence in motion. The raiders were stronger and more heavily armed, but Kyle's understanding of leverage, timing, and human agility gave him the upper hand. He disarmed one attacker by twisting the foe's weapon against him and sent another stumbling into a shallow ditch. The raiders faltered, unprepared for his skill. "You are not what you seem," Seraphine whispered to herself, watching him with awe. Kale's expression remained calm, almost serene, as if this were simply another day's work. But Seraphine knew better. Every movement revealed discipline, training, and experience beyond what any farmer should possess. Kale used the chaos to his advantage. He guided the raiders' attacks toward uneven ground, making their steps uncertain. With a well-timed strike of his hoe's flat side, he knocked one raider off balance, and with a spin, he sent another flying into a pile of hay. Within moments, the attackers were forced to retreat, realizing they had underestimated the human before them. When the last raider disappeared into the forest, Kale exhaled and leaned on his tool. Seraphine approached cautiously, still processing what she had seen. "You fought them like a warrior," she said, her voice filled with amazement. "I thought humans were weak, simple, even fragile, but you are something else entirely." Kale smiled faintly, lowering the hoe. "I told you, Princess, I am only a farmer. But farmers protect what they love. Sometimes that requires more than just care, it requires strength." Seraphine studied him closely, her eyes searching for any hint of arrogance or pride. She found none. Instead, she saw humility, quiet confidence, and determination. She realized that Kale's strength was not just in his skill with a weapon, but in his mind and heart. He had survived not because he sought glory, but because he acted with purpose and intelligence. "You carry yourself as though you have trained for this all your life," Seraphine said. "Yet you live here on a quiet farm." Kyle nodded slowly. "People are more than they seem. I may be a farmer now, but I have learned to fight, to think, and to survive. Sometimes that is all a person needs to protect their home." Seraphine's curiosity deepened. She had met many humans across the galaxy, but she had never met one like Kale. He was not just strong. He was clever, adaptable, and fearless when it mattered most. She realized that her previous assumptions about humans had been wrong. "Show me your home," she said finally, her tone softer. "Show me where you live and what you care for. I want to understand more than just your skill with that." Tool. Kyle led her to a hidden path behind his farmhouse. The path wound through a grove of ancient trees, their branches forming a natural canopy. The air smelled of pine and earth, and small animals scurried through the underbrush. At the end of the path, a low hill concealed the entrance to a stone structure partially buried in the earth. "This is my sanctuary," Kyle said quietly. "It has been in my family for generations. Few know of it. It is a place of safety, learning, and history." Seraphine's eyes widened. "A hidden temple?" she asked. "It is unlike anything I have seen on other worlds." Kale opened a simple wooden door, revealing a chamber filled with ancient artifacts, old texts, and weapons. The centerpiece was a sword resting on a stone pedestal, its blade glimmering in the sunlight that filtered through a small window. This sword belonged to my ancestors, Kale explained. They were warriors and protectors long before my time. I am its guardian, though I choose a quiet life now. Seraphine approached the sword carefully, her fingers brushing the hilt. She could feel the weight of history and power emanating from it. It is beautiful. And deadly, she murmured. Kale nodded. It is not the sword alone that matters. It is the one who wields it, and the heart that guides it. The princess looked at him, her mind racing. She had expected to find a farmer, perhaps clever and strong. But she had found a man of courage, skill, and deep wisdom. The realization made her reconsider everything she thought she knew about humans. They were not weak, not simple. They were capable of incredible things if they chose to be. As they left the hidden sanctuary, Kale and Seraphine were met with another challenge. A scout from the raiders had returned, trying to find weaknesses in the farm's defenses. Kale acted quickly, setting traps and using clever diversions to confuse the intruder. With each move, Seraphine saw the intelligence and foresight that guided him, proving that his abilities were more than physical. They were mental as well. By the time the day ended, the scout had fled, leaving Kale and Seraphine in peace once more. The princess turned to him, her expression thoughtful and serious. You are not merely a man of strength, she said softly. You are a strategist, a protector, and a leader. The galaxy has much to learn from humans like you. Kale shrugged, a small smile on his lips. I am just a farmer, he said. But even a farmer can rise when the need is great. Seraphine watched him, realizing that his words were true in more ways than one. The quiet farm, the simple life, and the humble man who worked its fields, all of it hid a depth that few could understand. And for the first time she saw humans not as weak or fragile, but as a species capable of greatness, courage, and honor. As the sun set behind the distant mountains, Kale returned to his work, preparing the farm for the night. Seraphine stayed nearby, reflecting on the lessons she had learned from a man she had once underestimated. The quiet farm was no longer just a place of crops and soil. It was a place of strength, wisdom, and hidden power. And in that moment, Seraphine realized that she had only begun to understand the true potential of humans, and the man who had captured her respect, and perhaps something more, with his courage, intelligence, and heart. The morning sun had barely risen over the farm when Kale walked through his fields, the soft rustle of the crops accompanying each of his steps. The events of the previous day lingered in the air like a faint echo. The surprise attack, the precision of his actions, and the awestruck gaze of Princess Seraphine. He had always lived quietly, content with his life tending the soil, but the princess's presence had changed something. Her curiosity had stirred a sense of responsibility he could not ignore. Seraphine followed closely, her expression thoughtful. She had seen him in action twice now, and each time, her respect for him had grown. Yet she still did not know the full extent of his abilities. Yesterday's skirmish had been a display of instinct and quick thinking. But there was more, much more hidden beneath the calm surface of this seemingly ordinary man. Kale led her toward a small hill at the far edge of his farm. At its base lay a hidden entrance, carefully concealed by overgrown shrubs and rocks. The hill had always been a secret, a place passed down through generations of his family. Few in the village knew of it, and none had ever entered. This place, Kale said quietly, is older than my family. It has seen more than anyone could imagine. It holds our history, our knowledge, and sometimes our weapons. Seraphine's eyes widened as he pushed aside the heavy stones covering the entrance. Inside, a narrow stairway led downward into a chamber dimly lit by natural light filtering through cracks in the stone. The air was cool, carrying the scent of earth and metal, a strange mixture that hinted at both age and purpose. At the center of the chamber rested a sword on a stone pedestal. Its blade gleamed faintly, etched with intricate designs that shimmered even in the low light. It was not just a weapon, it was a symbol, a link to a time when humans had defended themselves against far greater threats in the galaxy. Kyle approached it with reverence. This sword belonged to my ancestors, he said. They were protectors, warriors, and scholars. Long before humans were known across the stars, they fought to keep their people safe. Now it is my turn to honor that legacy. Seraphine stepped closer, her eyes tracing the delicate carvings on the hilt. It is beautiful, she whispered. And dangerous, I assume? Kale smiled faintly. It is only as dangerous as the one who wields it. Strength without control is meaningless. Courage without wisdom is wasted. The sword is a tool, but the heart that guides it, that is what makes the difference. The princess's mind raced. She had met countless warriors from different worlds, but Kale was different. He had the calmness of a farmer, yet the skill of a seasoned fighter. He had defended her, protected his home, and outsmarted the raiders without hesitation. The sword was proof of what she had begun to suspect. Humans were far more capable than most alien civilizations believed. Kyle lifted the sword carefully, testing its balance. His movements were precise, almost ritualistic. Seraphine watched in awe as he demonstrated its weight, how it moved in his hands with effortless grace. He spun it, blocked imaginary strikes, and struck with speed and control that belied his seemingly gentle demeanor. "This is incredible," Seraphine said, her voice low. "I thought you were a simple farmer." "I never imagined." Kale lowered the sword, meeting her gaze. "Appearances can be deceiving," he said. "People often underestimate what humans are capable of. But we adapt, we learn, and we survive. That is our strength." Their moment was interrupted by a distant sound, a low hum that grew steadily louder. Kale's eyes narrowed. He recognized it immediately, a Natharan warship approaching from orbit. Its presence was no accident. The princess's own people had likely sent it to retrieve her, unaware of the events unfolding on Leora Prime. "Princess," Kale said quietly, "we may have company sooner than expected. You need to be ready to leave, or we may have to fight." Seraphine's expression shifted. She had expected humans to be cautious, perhaps even weak, but she now understood that Kale was not just cautious. He was prepared. And she had learned that underestimating him could be dangerous. The ground trembled slightly as the ship descended, kicking up clouds of dust and debris. Kale led Seraphine outside the hidden chamber, placing himself between her and the approaching threat. The farm, once a place of peace, had become the front line of a battle neither of them had sought, but both were ready to face. Kyle's mind raced. The raiders from before had been a warning, but the warship represented something far greater. Its weapons were advanced, capable of destruction beyond the scale of anything he had faced. Yet he did not falter. His confidence was rooted not in recklessness but in preparation and human ingenuity. "Do you know how to use that sword in battle?" Seraphine asked, her voice steady despite the rising tension. Kale's grip tightened around the hilt. "I know how to use it to defend, to protect. That is all I need. We will not strike without purpose, but we will not retreat either." As the warship landed, alien soldiers poured out, their movements precise, their weapons aimed to intimidate and control. Kale assessed the terrain, noting every hill, ditch, and obstruction. He positioned himself and the princess carefully, creating natural barriers and vantage points that gave them an advantage despite being outnumbered. The first soldiers approached. Cautious but confident in their superior technology, Kale moved with speed and precision, using the sword to block energy blasts and disarm opponents. Each strike was calculated, each movement deliberate. He did not merely fight, he controlled the battlefield, guiding the enemies into positions where their numbers became a disadvantage. Seraphine fought alongside him, though her role was more observation than combat. She marveled at his skill, realizing that Kale's strength was not just in his body but in his mind. Every decision, every action, was informed by intelligence, strategy, and instinct honed over a lifetime. The aliens began to realize that their superiority was not enough. Kale moved like water, flowing around their attacks, using their own momentum against them. One soldier lunged with a plasma blade, only to be deflected into another by Kale's precise strike. Another aimed a blaster at Seraphine, but Kale intercepted, redirecting the weapon harmlessly into the ground. Hours seemed to pass in moments. The battlefield shifted, the sun climbing higher, casting long shadows across the fields. Kale's presence inspired not just fear but respect. Even the princess, who had seen countless warriors, felt the magnitude of what she witnessed. Finally, the alien commander, a tall figure clad in dark armor, signaled a retreat. The soldiers, demoralized by the human skill and the effective use of the environment, pulled back. Kale did not pursue. He knew better than to underestimate a disciplined enemy. The warship lifted off, disappearing into the sky, leaving the farm quiet once more. Seraphine approached Kyle, her eyes wide with admiration. You faced them all and you protected everything here. I cannot believe it. You are not a simple farmer. You are a protector, a strategist, and a warrior. Kyle sheathed the sword carefully, returning it to the pedestal in the hidden chamber. I am still a farmer, he said softly. This farm, this land, these people, they are what matter most. But yes, when the need arises, I will fight. That is all I know to do. The princess looked at him, understanding dawning fully. Humans were not just resilient, they were adaptable, courageous, and capable of rising to challenges far beyond expectation. Kale embodied all of that, hidden beneath a humble exterior. You have changed my view of humans, she said quietly. I have traveled across many worlds, met many species, but none have shown me what you have today. Perhaps the galaxy has underestimated your kind. Kale smiled faintly. Perhaps, he said, but it is not for us to boast. We act, we protect, and we endure. That is enough. As evening approached, Kale and Seraphine returned to the farm. The fields bathed in golden light. The quiet of the land was restored, yet the knowledge of what had occurred lingered. The princess had seen the depth of human strength, and Kale had demonstrated the balance of power, wisdom, and heart. In that moment, both realized that the galaxy was far larger and more dangerous than either had imagined, and yet, humans, resilient, clever, and determined, could stand against threats that others would consider insurmountable. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of red and gold. Kale returned to his daily chores, the sword safely in its place, the princess at his side. They both understood that this peace might not last, but they also knew that together, with courage, skill, and intelligence, they could face whatever came next. And deep within Kale, a quiet fire burned, a readiness for the challenges that lay ahead, and the certainty that humans, no matter how humble they appeared, could rise to meet any threat, protect what they loved, and shape the course of events in the galaxy. The dawn on Leora Prime brought a tense stillness across the farm. Kale moved silently through the fields, surveying his surroundings. Every tree, every ditch, and every furrow in the ground was a potential advantage or obstacle. The distant rumble of engines warned him that the previous day's conflict was only the beginning. The Netharan fleet had returned, this time in full force. Princess Seraphine stood beside him, her expression calm but alert. She had never seen Kale in such a state of readiness before. There was no fear in his eyes, only focus and a quiet determination that radiated outward. Kyle, she said softly, they are more numerous than yesterday. Do you really think we can stand against them? Kale glanced at her, his dark eyes steady. We have to. Retreat is not an option. If they take this farm, they will move on to other settlements. We protect our home where we let others fall. That is not who we are. The first ships descended slowly from orbit, their engines creating waves of wind that bent the tall crops. Soldiers poured out, clad in sleek armor and wielding energy rifles. The ground shook with each step of their mechanized walkers. Yet Kale remained calm, analyzing the battlefield with a strategist's mind. Use the terrain, he whispered to Seraphine. The fields, the hills, the forests, they are all our allies. We can control their movements if we think ahead. Seraphine nodded. She had begun to understand Kale's method. He did not fight recklessly. Every action had a purpose, every movement was calculated. Humans, she realized, were far more adaptive than she had ever imagined. Kale moved first, taking a position on a small hill that overlooked the central field. From there he could see the enemy's approach. He instructed villagers who had fled to the safety of nearby caves to stay hidden. But he also prepared simple defensive traps, pits covered with brush, nets to trip the walkers, and decoys to mislead the soldiers. The first wave of attackers advanced confidently, expecting an easy victory. Kale's strategy quickly became apparent. He did not engage head-on. Instead, he lured them into narrow paths where their numbers became a disadvantage. One walker stumbled into a pit trap, toppling onto its side with a loud crash. Soldiers scrambled to free it, only to be struck by swinging logs Kale had rigged. Seraphine watched, fascinated. You are extraordinary, she whispered. Your mind, your tactics, they are beyond anything I have seen. You are not just defending, you are controlling the battle. Kyle's focus never wavered. He moved through the battlefield with the sword in hand, striking only when necessary. His movements were fluid, precise, and efficient. Energy blasts from the soldiers' weapons were deflected or avoided with careful timing, while his strikes disarmed or incapacitated the attackers. Each enemy he faced seemed to underestimate him, only to realize too late that appearances were deceiving. The commander of the Netheran fleet, a tall, imposing figure clad in dark armor, observed the chaos with growing frustration. His advanced technology and superior numbers were supposed to guarantee victory. Yet the humans led by Kyle were not just surviving, they were turning the battlefield to their advantage. Kyle noticed the commander's hesitation. "They think technology makes them invincible," he muttered. "But they do not understand humans." He took a running leap from the hill, landing among a group of soldiers with astonishing speed. In a series of swift motions, he disarmed two and sent another flying backward with the flat side of his sword. The soldiers stumbled, giving Kale the opportunity to retreat strategically, drawing them toward another trap he had prepared. Seraphine could hardly believe her eyes. The man she had thought of as a farmer was now the center of the battlefield, outmaneuvering soldiers far stronger and better equipped than he was. His courage, intelligence, and resourcefulness were undeniable. She had seen humans act bravely before, but Kale exemplified a level of ingenuity and skill that was truly exceptional. As the battle continued, Kale used every advantage the farm offered. Irrigation channels became moats, small hills served as barriers, and forests provided cover for surprise strikes. He moved like water flowing through the battlefield, never wasting energy, always anticipating the enemy's next move. Each tactic demonstrated the combination of strength and intelligence that defined humans. Adaptable, clever, and relentless when defending what they loved. The enemy commander, realizing that conventional attacks were failing, called for reinforcements. More soldiers poured from the warship, and larger walkers joined the fray. The ground shook with their approach, but Kale did not falter. He rallied the villagers who had hidden, giving them simple tasks that leveraged their local knowledge. They guided rolling logs, opened gates to funnel the enemy, and used the terrain to slow the attackers, "You see?" Kale said to Seraphine as they worked together. "Even ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they are united and know their land. Humans are not just fighters. They adapt, they cooperate, and they endure." The tide of battle began to shift. The aliens, despite their technology, struggled against the combination of human strategy, courage, and ingenuity. Kale's leadership inspired those around him. Even Seraphine, trained in diplomacy and observation, felt the stirring of admiration and something deeper for this human who could stand against overwhelming odds with nothing but skill, wit, and determination. The final wave approached, a group of elite soldiers led by the commander himself. Kale knew this was the moment that would define the battle. He adjusted his strategy, creating a narrow corridor using fallen trees and ditches, forcing the enemy into a confined space. Their numbers became useless in the tight area, and Kale moved among them like a shadow, striking with precision and grace. The commander raised his weapon, aiming directly at Kale, but Kale anticipated the attack, deflecting the energy blast with the sword and closing the distance with astonishing speed. A precise strike sent the weapon clattering away, and the commander fell back, stunned. The elite soldiers hesitated, unsure how to respond. In that moment, Kale's presence dominated the battlefield. Seraphine watched, awe-filled. The man she had once thought ordinary was now a force of nature, a symbol of what humans could achieve when united with purpose and courage. The battlefield, once chaotic and threatening, was now under the control of one human and those who trusted him. Finally, the enemy retreated. The remaining soldiers fled to their warships, realizing that victory was impossible against a species so resourceful and determined. Kale did not pursue. He knew that a disciplined withdrawal was often wiser than a reckless chase. The field fell silent save for the rustle of the crops and the distant hum of departing engines. Kale sheathed his sword, his body weary, but his mind clear. Seraphine approached, her expression a mix of relief, admiration, and disbelief. You have done the impossible," she said softly. "You have faced an entire fleet and you have won. I have never seen anything like it. Humans are incredible." Kale smiled faintly, lowering his gaze. "We do what we must. We defend, we protect, and we endure. That is all a human knows how to do. Victory is not about glory, it is about survival. And about standing for what you care for." The princess looked around at the battlefield, noting the clever traps, the obstacles, and the way the villagers had contributed. It was a combination of human ingenuity, courage, and leadership that had turned the tide. In that moment, she realized that the galaxy had underestimated humans. They were not weak, not simple, and certainly not ordinary. They were capable of incredible resilience and strategy, especially when defending their home and loved ones. "You have changed my view entirely," Seraphine said quietly. "I came here expecting to observe a simple farmer, and instead I have witnessed a leader, a strategist, and a hero. You have shown me that humans are not to be underestimated." Kale looked out over his fields, the sun setting behind the distant mountains. The battle was over, but the lessons remained. Humans, he thought, thrived not because they were the strongest or the fastest, but because they adapted, thought, and fought with both heart and mind. That was their true strength. Seraphine stood beside him, silent now, contemplating the events of the day. She had learned more about humans in a single battle than she had in decades of interstellar diplomacy, and she realized that Kale was not just an exceptional individual. He represented what humans could be at their best: courageous, clever, and unyielding in the face of danger. As night fell, the farm returned to quiet. Kale tended to minor repairs, helping villagers restore their homes and tools. The princess observed him, noting that even after the chaos of battle he remained humble, focused on what truly mattered. The heroism she had witnessed was not in seeking recognition. It was in duty, protection, and care for one's people. The stars began to appear above Leora Prime, twinkling in the clear night sky. Kale stood among his fields, the sword now resting in its place within the hidden sanctuary. He felt a deep sense of satisfaction, not from victory but from knowing that he had defended what he loved. And Princess Seraphine, watching him, understood something profound. Humans were not merely another species in the galaxy. They were capable of greatness that could inspire awe, respect, and perhaps even hope. Kale, a simple farmer in appearance, had proven it with every action, every decision, and every strike of his blade. The morning after the battle, Leora Prime was quiet once more. The air was filled with the scent of fresh earth and the faint aroma of burning debris from the alien retreat. Villagers emerged from their hiding places, cautiously inspecting their homes and fields. Broken fences and scorched crops reminded everyone of the recent struggle, but hope shone brighter than the destruction. Kale walked through the fields, inspecting the damage. His hands, though worn from years of farming, moved with steady precision. Each repair he made, every gate he reinforced, was a small victory. Though he had faced advanced soldiers and powerful weapons, he treated the aftermath with the same care as he did planting seeds, slowly, methodically, and with patience. Princess Seraphine followed, her eyes scanning the village and the surrounding landscape. She had witnessed humans at their best, and now she observed them in recovery. The villagers, inspired by Kale's courage, worked together without hesitation. They repaired homes, restored crops, and salvaged what they could from the battlefield. Even the youngest children helped carry tools or water, contributing in small but meaningful ways. Seraphine approached Kale. "Your people, they are remarkable," she said softly. "And you, your leadership, your courage, they have inspired everyone here. I cannot imagine what would have happened if you were not here." Kyle shook his head, his expression humble. "I did what anyone would do. Protecting one's home and people is not extraordinary, it is necessary. Humans endure because we care and we adapt. That is our strength," the princess nodded thoughtfully. She had traveled across countless systems, met many species, and seen their technology and power. Yet she had rarely encountered resilience like this. Humans, she realized, were different. They did not rely solely on weapons or numbers. They relied on intelligence, courage, and unity. And when humans stood together, they could overcome even the greatest odds. As the day progressed, a new sound echoed across the fields. A fleet of Netheran ships, smaller and more cautious than before, descended slowly from orbit. Their commander, perhaps wiser now, had sent envoys instead of soldiers. Kale and Seraphine watched as the ships landed on the outskirts of the village. A group of Netheran diplomats, led by the former commander, approached carefully. They did not carry weapons, only gestures of diplomacy. Their leader bowed deeply before Kale. "Human," he said, his voice respectful, "we underestimated your species. Your skill, strategy, and courage have proven that humans are not to be dismissed lightly. We come seeking terms of peace." Kyle regarded them quietly. He could feel the weight of this moment, not just for himself, but for all of humanity. The galaxy often assumed humans were weak, simple, or fragile, Today they had shown otherwise. Yet Kale knew that true strength was not in pride or vengeance, it was in wisdom, fairness, and the protection of life. Peace is possible, Kale said finally, but it must be earned through respect and understanding. Humans will defend what is ours, but we are willing to work with those who respect our strength and our values. The aliens nodded, accepting the terms. Princess Seraphine observed the negotiation quietly, impressed by Kale's calm authority. He spoke with the certainty of someone who understood both the weight of power and the responsibility that came with it. After the talks concluded, Seraphine led Kale aside. "You have done more than defend a farm or a village," she said, her voice filled with awe. "You have shown the galaxy the true potential of humans. Your courage, your intelligence, your heart, they are unmatched. You are legendary, Kyle." Kyle smiled faintly, shaking his head. "I am no legend. I am a farmer. But perhaps what we do today in small ways can inspire others. Perhaps that is the beginning of something greater. Humans endure not for glory, but because we must. That is our true power." Seraphine's eyes shone with respect and admiration. She had come to Leora Prime expecting to find a simple life and perhaps observe a harmless human. Instead, she had witnessed a man whose courage, wisdom, and skill could change the course of events in the galaxy. She realized that humans were far more than she, or anyone, had imagined. Over the following days, the villagers worked tirelessly to rebuild. Kale moved among them, offering guidance, encouragement, and assistance. The farm, once damaged, began to recover, stronger and more organized than before. Seraphine assisted as well, learning human methods and sharing her own knowledge. Together, they created a bridge between species, a symbol of cooperation and mutual respect. Word of Kale's actions spread quickly. Traders and travelers carried stories of the human farmer who had stood against advanced alien forces and emerged victorious. Across the galaxy, humans were now regarded with renewed respect. They were seen not only as survivors, but as beings capable of courage, strategy, and leadership, traits that could shape the fate of worlds. One evening, Kyle stood on a small hill overlooking his restored farm. The wind rustled the crops and the first stars appeared in the darkening sky. The sword, once hidden, rested securely in its place in the sanctuary below. Kale's thoughts were quiet, reflective. He had protected his home, defended his people, and demonstrated the strength of humanity. Yet he remained humble, knowing that true power was not measured in battles won, but in the ability to endure, protect, and inspire. Seraphine approached him, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Kale," she said, "humans are capable of incredible things. You have proven it. You are not just a farmer. You are a symbol of what your kind can achieve. You have earned my respect and perhaps the respect of the galaxy itself." Kale looked at her, his dark eyes steady. "I do not seek recognition," he said softly. "I act because it is necessary. Humans endure because we care and we fight because we must. That is all." The princess smiled, understanding the depth of his words. She had seen warriors, rulers, and diplomats across countless star systems. But Kale's courage and wisdom were rare. He was ordinary in appearance but extraordinary in action, a living testament to the potential of humanity. As the days turned into weeks, Kale's farm became a symbol. Visitors from neighboring planets came to learn from him, to understand human methods, and to witness the ingenuity and courage that had defended Leora Prime. Seraphine stayed as well, working alongside him and learning the values that humans cherished: patience, intelligence, courage, and unity. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky with shades of gold and crimson, Kale stood once more with his sword. He did not unsheath it for battle, but to honor what it represented. It was a symbol of resilience, of protection, and of the strength that lay within humanity. Seraphine watched quietly, knowing that the galaxy had witnessed only a glimpse of what humans could achieve. Kale's actions had sparked respect, admiration, and hope, not only among humans but across species. He had proven that courage, intelligence, and a steadfast heart could overcome even the most formidable challenges. "You have shown me the truth about humans," Seraphine said softly. "We underestimated your kind, and for that I apologize. You are not just a survivor. You are a leader, a protector, and a hero. The galaxy should remember this." Kyle nodded, sheathing the sword once more. "Let them remember not me, but what humans can do when they stand together." That is the lesson worth carrying. Night fell over Leora Prime and the farm grew quiet. Kale returned to his daily work, tending to his crops and ensuring the safety of his people. The battle was over, the aliens had retreated, and peace had been restored. Yet Kale knew that vigilance was necessary. Humanity's strength was not in invincibility but in endurance, wisdom, and courage. As Seraphine looked over the fields, she realized that Kale's story, and the story of humans, was far from over. They had proven themselves capable of great feats, inspiring allies and earning the respect of former enemies. The galaxy had underestimated humanity for too long, and now, through one man's courage and intelligence, the truth had been revealed. Kyle, the farmer, the warrior, the protector, had shown that appearances could be deceiving. Ordinary humans could achieve extraordinary things. They could stand against overwhelming odds, defend what they loved, and inspire respect across the stars. And as long as humans endured, they would continue to shape the galaxy, not with arrogance but with courage, intelligence, and heart. Princess Seraphine placed a hand gently on Kale's arm. "Thank you," she said, "for everything, for protecting your people, for teaching me, and for showing the galaxy the true strength of humans." Kyle smiled faintly. "We all do what we must," he replied. "That is the way of humanity. Protect, endure, and inspire. That is all." The stars twinkled above Leora Prime, and a quiet wind rustled through the crops. A legend had been born, not from power or conquest, but from courage, wisdom, and the enduring strength of one man and his people. Kyle returned to his farmhouse, the sword resting safely in its sanctuary, knowing that while battles may come again, humanity would always endure, and the galaxy, having witnessed a single human rise to meet impossible odds, would never underestimate the people of Earth again.